Parshas Tazria, Rosh Chodesh Nisan, Tavshin Pei Daled. As we're preparing for the Yontif of Pesach, we know what the Svarim explain, that a person has the opportunity to rebuild themselves. We see the trees, we see the whole creation, how they start to sprout, bloom, blossom, and the person, which is the Odom Eitz HaSodeh, is not different. The person has the opportunity for them inside to grow and to understand life, purpose of life better, deeper. So we usually discuss topics of Emunah and Bitachon. Usually we try to analyze what Bitachon is in different areas in life, what's the wrong or what's the right. But when a person is trying to work on themselves, how do I acquire the midah, the feeling, to be'emes trust? The part of learning it and understanding it is a big factor. It helps a person connect to, and also to realize mistakes, understand what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, what does the Torah teach us. And slowly it seeps in. It helps the person live a life of truth. But the Sfarim explain that only the knowledge part, learning, is not enough for it to become an integral part of the person. It should become part of you, that a person naturally feels the right feelings when they approach, when they have situations going on in their life. Many times people say, what do I do that when the Nisayon actual happens, I shouldn't forget everything that I learned? When I'm in a very calm atmosphere and we learn the ideas of Bitachon, that's when it's so beautiful. But when push comes to shove, when the actual Nisayon comes, for some reason I feel I just lose it. Especially people that they feel that they have a netiya, they have a tendency to have anxiety, different types, different levels, and be'emes, it's a hardship for them. It's not easy. So, if it's panic attacks, then forget about it. Not forget about it. I mean to say that it's even harder. But they actually feel tense, physically. And sometimes it's not geschmack for a person to experience that the learning. And while they're going through the situation, then he's saying that they have the be'emes feel the opposite of bitachon. And the conflict sometimes could drag down a person to feel, so I'm not really getting anywhere. And even if I am, I feel it's not in the percentage wise. I'm learning so much, and I'm maybe inching up a drop. So there's a sugya in Torah. There's a part of Torah a person should learn. Eitzis, how to bring the bitachon to be part of you be'emes. Whatever that bitachon is, let's continue to learn different shiurim what bitachon is. But whatever it is, what are the eitzis that knowledge should go into my mind and heart so deep that I should be'emes feel it while something is happening? I'm calm. I'm not the same like I used to be. And many people experience that feeling, even if they only learned. They feel that they had to marry off a child and it wasn't the same like the previous children. They feel that they were much, much more calm. The bitachon penetrated. It was be'emes matzliach to calm them down. But first of all, not everybody feels like that. And also, when a person reaches an Nisayon that's really sensitive, really, like we once discussed, that's when a person needs a lot of siyata d'shmaya, and you have to use all the tools in the book, the tools that the Torah gives us to really become a Baal Bitachon, and that has to be before the Nisayon comes, because by the actual Nisayon, it's a test to see where you're up to. So there's a yesod, a fundamental yesod that a person could use in many areas in Torah, not only in Bitachon, that the moyach part, the knowledge, the learning Torah, has a hashpo on the person, influences a person in one way, but then a person needs the part of action and physical mitzvahs to complement the learning Torah part, and only when you have both, only then could a person's heart legamri, totally, fully connect to that special feeling of calmness, of emunah bitachon, the emes emunah bitachon that a person is supposed to have. And the Torah is set up that way. It's not such a big chiddush, because if you look in the Torah, every person is supposed to learn and then be mekayim. Men are supposed to invest in learning even more, because when they're working hard to learn yogeya, when they toil in Torah, it helps to take away Yetzaharas, it brings them to the Kedusha. So they also have the Limud Torah as that's like an asiyah. It's like a physical hardship. But even women are supposed to learn and understand in Yonim of Torah, which is Negei. Of course we're supposed to learn Emunah Bitachon. That's our base. But we learn Krishma, we have to know that Hashem runs the world, Hashgacha Pratis and all that. But in addition to that, a person has the chelik from to do pu'ulos, physical actions that are going to bring bitachon to the person. We could mention to that the Shemesh Shmuel Pashas Vayera Tofresh Pei Aleph. We have mentioned it in the past by Ishtadlis. He says, why was Avram Avinu born not mohul, not like Adam Rishon? He had to go through a bris milah. So he explains that the Zohar Kodesh stresses the importance of physical mitzvahs. So he says, why is that? Doesn't Reb Shimon Bar Yochai always stress that a person is supposed to feel and have neshama and think? The main thing is the kavona. He says, my father David Neza explained, when you're thinking about Hashem, that's when you're being ma'oyer upstairs in the Oilamas, new shefa, new abundance. But when you are doing something in this world, a mitzvah, you're bringing it down to you, to yourself, so it should get to you, so it should become part of you, without getting stuck in the details of that word. But it just explains to us that when a person is learning bitachon, they're going through a course of bitachon. They want to go through a life-changing experience of bitachon. They want to become different people. The learning part is a 50% of the arbet. Then a person is supposed to do physical actions that are going to bring them to bitachon. The question is, what? It sounds a little bit interesting, because what could I do? Bitachon is a feeling. Bitachon is not something that you do. So, what physical action is going to bring me to have that feeling?
The answer is nasa v'nish.
Explain.
You do it first, ki'ilu, even if you don't.
Oh, so a person is supposed to do before they feel. So that would work. We have to stress it, because many people have this question. That would work amazingly with the koyach hadibur. Let's start with that. And Pesach, it's one of the big yisoides of the Yom Tov of Pesach. The tzaddikim and Kobrin and Lechvich, the Slonim dynasty, they would say this word over and over, that He'emanti ki adaber. I got to Emunah because I spoke Emunah. I wasn't up to that level yet, but I spoke like that, and slowly it seeped in, and I started feeling that be'emes. People have that question when they have a nisoyin, they're going through hardship, and you tell them, thank Hashem for your situation. They say, well, thank Hashem. You're joking with me. No, thank Hashem that you have this nisoyin, but I don't really mean it. I don't feel it. You should thank verbally Hashem before meaning it, before feeling it. The more you're going to say it, it's going to have a big hashvo. It's going to have an influence on you. And the Sipu Yitzias Mitzrayim is with the mouth. Say the story, and it has a koich to bring an amunah to yourself and to your children. This form, any sefer you open up, will explain that when a person is just verbalizing what happened, Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim, and Hashem runs the world, and it has a very big koich to schlep the person in, and it should have an influence on the heart. So that's the Nasa and Ishma part. Before you're up to it, you should first start implementing it, even before you feel it. But it's not only in Dibur. Physical asiyah is different physical actions a person could do and should do, which will have a gewaldige koyach to bring the amunah and bitachon to the person. But before we learn the actual maisim, this yesod is built on the chinuch, the sefer chinuch from the Rishonim. Also, the night of Pesach, Parshas Boy, there's a mitzvah that a person shouldn't break the bones of the korban Pesach. Ve'etzem lo yisishburu boy. Zog the chinuch, why is a person forbidden? Why aren't you allowed to break the bones and eat the marrow that's inside? Because b'nei malachim don't do that. If you're choshev, you don't break the bones and take it out from inside. You just eat the meat that's from the outside. So why is it that a person is supposed to act like a ben melech? Sefer Chinuch explains the reason for that mitzvah is because if you'll act like one, you will become. You would feel it and you would remember who you are and that Hashem took you out of Mitzrayim and you're not an Eved. So this is the Yisod. And then the Chinuch says that the famous words Odom Nifal Kefi Pu'ula Yosef, which means that the insides of a person change Kefi according to your physical actions. That's very important because we don't have a handle how to just push a button to our feelings. It like comes like waves, which I do. I feel down. I feel that I don't have cheshik, whatever it is, but I don't feel like I'm uplifted. If you do, you're going to feel uplifted. You're going to start feeling that feeling of a ben melech. The same is in bitachon. Same concept as in bitachon. It's very important for a person to actually do certain steps, and that's when it has a koyach. It changes something inside of the person. The insides of a person feels, hey, it's not the same like it was. They try to look back and say, since I did ABC, I don't feel that it's on the same level anymore. Well, know that it's systematic. It works like that. Now, we spoke about talking. The Svarim explain the Moranayim Parshas V'Eschanon, and many different Svarim bring this as one of the big Yesoides. The Moranayim, then there's the Rebbein Roth in a Sefer Shema Emunim, Ma'amei Bitachon V'Eschaskus. The Moranayim is in Parshas Re'eh that giving tzedakah. When a person giving meiser, nesinas ha-meiser, if you meiser your money, it's not easy for a person. Not easy at all because a person is tight, because a person feels that I need to save, I need it for myself. But then the Torah says, if you give, I'm going to give you back. So you're like, I have to trust in Hashem for that. Maybe it doesn't mean Pashup Pshat. Maybe it means like more the Indian, that the Abish is going to have an Indian of giving back. So I want the Pashup Pshat of money. If a person really has a conflict, then it's not easy. But the person should be aware that you have opportunity. You're working on bitachon. Okay, there aren't many physical actions that a person could do that they're just giving away just because they trust. This is the strongest when it comes to asiyah. It means physical. You're doing it just because you trust. Now, tzedakah is a good example, and it's also lemaisa, but it's an umbrella where a person many times in life jumps in just because that's what's right, and Hashem is going to help me because I'm doing what's right. The concept of Bolitar Messiah Noisoi many times means that a person is taking a risk by starting. A person is giving something away because they're believing that Hashem is going to help them. Many times we mentioned the Shloah Kodesh. The Shloah says, Boli Taher Yivtach. You should trust that Messiah knows. Hashem said He's going to help me. So, if Parnam B'Zerov opens a yeshiva because he feels it's after the war and that's what Bochum need, and he says, and people look at him like he's nuts, like, what are you doing? And it's not going to work. And he says, but I have this deep, deep feeling that this is what's right. We have to save a generation. So he does something. He feels, but you might get so messed up. You might be so unsuccessful. You might pay a price that it's going to ruin your personal life. You know, the choiv is the depth that you're going to go into. But he feels, if it's right, then Hashem is going to help me. But maybe not. No. There's no maybe not. Because Bo'alatar Messiah knows it might be hard, it might be a struggle, it might be tough. So when you do that step, that's called a physical action of Bitachon. It's good to have that in mind. It's called a physical action of Bitachon. And you didn't do that all the time. Many times. People get married, people have children. Sometimes people get worried financially how they're going to manage. Maybe we should think about, it's like a professional way of saying it, manage, budgeting. Maybe I should do some chishuvim, like maybe financial planning, like a nice way of saying it. Financial planning. Listen, but when a person did an act of bitachon, that means, let me ask the Rav, let me understand the hashkaf of the Torah. Let me see what it says in the pasuk. The pasuk it says v'le'erav al tanach yotcha, which means a mitzvah. Even a person has a boy and a girl, have another child, another child, another child. Yeah, but what's the plan? One second, is it a mitzvah? What's the situation? Oh, I'm worried about the money. I'm worried about the money. Okay. So, but it's scary. Oh, very good. If you can do a physical action, I want you to explain something. It's not only about what you did. It's the bitachon that you're putting into yourself. Not that you have the whole plan, but the Rebbeinu Shalom runs this world, and this is the way the Rebbeinu Shalom set up this world. This is what He wants.
Is something wrong with planning?
No, planning is nothing wrong. It's very important to stress. Not only it's not wrong, it's something that's right to plan. But here's where a person makes the mistake. They feel they have to figure it out. That means if a person has extra money, and instead of spending it, they're putting it away, wow, that's called being achrayzdik. That's called responsible. And the Belzer of Rabbi Suchadov used to tell us, all Chassidim, you should put away money. No, it's not a stira with ishtadlis b'chlal, with bitachon. Not a stira with bitachon. Because the Rebbeinu Shalom is giving it to you, made it for later. The Eibusha gave it to you, made it for later. You don't know exactly why. Maybe because I need it later. There might be a recession. The business doesn't always go exactly the same. So a person is careful. The word is when a person plans against the Torah. It's many times gray area, but a person is not doing what they're supposed to because they want to make sure. They want to make sure for extra credit. They want to. A person could always say, "Hey, I might need it," but here you have to give tzedakah, giving ma'aseh, giving 10% of everything that you earn. Not easy. But when a person does that act, the pa'ula, it has a roshem, it has an influence on the inside of you. Another such a act. Slowly, it really makes a dent.
That's why the Rambam says a kol lefi rov ha'maaseh.
Fascinating. There's a famous machloikis actually. What's better for a person to do? A person should give $1,000 to one poor man, to one oni, or rather $1 for 1,000 poor men. Again and again. So the Rambam says, for sure a person should give $1 to each person. He says, you know why? It has nothing to do with the person that's accepting it, that's getting it. It's more because your mitzvah to give tzedakah is a mitzvah for you to become a person that's a giver. That's your mitzvah. When you do that, you're making your neshama shine. And if you're just going to give a one-time check, a one-time check is not going to do it. So again, and then again, and then again. So even if you're only giving $1 each time, but it's that putting the hand into the pocket and giving someone and another toiza. So it has a very stark koyach on the person. And that is what the Svarim explain is the Beiter B'Shem Chesed Soivevenu, which means the Brisker Rav said, he elaborated, but what is the schar that a person gets for bitachon? Chesed Soivevenu. So many times people think about that Hashem is going to give me a lot of money, or Hashem is going to make sure that I have, a house and a car because I have bitachon. Because the more I have bitachon, Hashem is going to help me. But Brisker says, but bitachon is something bigger, stronger, broader than money. So it wouldn't make sense that you should do bitachon and get $5 for it. So he says the schar of bitachon is bitachon. That the Eibusha gives you the feeling. So when you do an act of bitachon, Hashem pays you back with a feeling of bitachon. That makes sense. And that helps the person have more and more bitachon, because it gives them that feeling the Eibusha is with me. Ingeman just told me yesterday that someone advised him he doesn't have a penny to his name. Ingeman told me that his wife asked him to go out and buy cucumbers and tomatoes. And his wife told him, I know you might not have the money, but if you don't have, then maybe tomorrow. But I'm telling you, I feel I need it. He says he left the house, doesn't have the money. He went to the bank. He knew there's nothing there. He said, I had a nice. I come to the bank, and there's 17 shekel in the bank account. I knew there was nothing there. So I look in there, and then I see that it's written that there was a new law passed that they have to give interest on the money that's on the money that's laying there, the deposit. Now he says that his wife had a baby, and there was a larger amount of money. The interest rate is 0.00 nothing. But there was an amount of money that came in because of 3 months that the Bituach Lomi gives. So there was 17 shekel that you just deposited. He took the 70 shekel, he bought cucumbers and tomatoes. He said, but that was Hashem's. This is the feeling that he had when he bought it was worth more than $1 million. For him, that 70, it wasn't, the Eibusha gave him, there was a schar, the Eibusha gave him that feeling. And he tells me someone told him that he should have in Zinnen, Haitzah Shabbos of a Yontif and everything. So he tells me, I needed a table and chairs for the dining room. Now, I could have used technically the ones from the kitchen. So I told Hashem, listen, it's not Shabbosdik. It should be Wachovadik. It should be a dining room table and chairs. But you're not asking for a new one. Of course, he's only looking into buying second hand. But it's fine. He says he called up someone, no idea, just a random number, there's no shaykhs. And he tells him, he saw pictures of it, he's going back and forth. So that fellow tells him, I don't want to sell it yet because I still need it until I get the new ones. He says, perfect, I don't need it right now. I also only need it when I go into the apartment. Givaldi. Then the guy tells him, Ata Rav? He says, no, I'm not a Rav. He says, so why does it come up on my phone that you're a Rav? So he tells me because he's written in the Chassidus that they have all the numbers written up there on the ID, and for every person it says Harav Rav. So he tells him, I'm not a Rav, but I'm a Avrech Koil. I'm a Koilingaman. He says, you're a Koilingaman? I'm giving you the table and chairs for free. That's I have a table and chairs for Shabbos. I asked the Rebbeinu Shlem, I don't have the money, but for Shabbos. Akaponim, when these stories happen to a person gets so excited because it's not the money that they got, it's that I feel it, and then they could use it, because then they could reuse it again and again, because they felt that the Rebbeinu was with them. Now, in order that a person should get these feelings, it's not about why doesn't such stories happen to me. It's not the story. It's the feeling after the story, then a person has to do something. It could be tzedakah, but it could, because tzedakah is pasha a way of showing that you trust, and it wasn't easy. Sometimes it could be, some Sfarim explain, keeping quiet. It's also physical. It's the other way. But when a person wants to say something, whatever, and they, no, I'm not going to, they're working out their inner, it's physical. You did something that's going to bring bitachon. You're not just learning the concept. You're acting upon what you learned. That's called acting upon what you learned. Screaming, trying to push, not making a phone call sometimes. Not making a phone call is a physical act of bitachon. No. The Rebbe Hashem is at helfen. He doesn't need to, I should give it another push. When a person chaps the opportunity that they have, then they should understand, use it, utilize it, and then you'll get that fascinating feeling of bitachon, which is going to help you across the board, because it's going to take away your anxiety, or whatever it is, whichever daraga. Ingeman told me a fascinating story that happened right now before Pesach. Didn't have money for cleaning up before Pesach now this year. Usually there's money, there's no money in the account. So a person could be frustrated. A person could try to borrow money. And he made the decision. It means that I'm supposed to roll up my sleeves and do it. But once I do it, I have bechira. I could do it with attitude. Makes no sense. I'm not supposed to be doing this. Hashem doesn't want me to be laying there on the floor on my knees. Or you could say, if Hashem wants me to do this, that's opportunity. That's opportunity. I'm going to do it with the attitude. So he made a decision that every time I'm scrubbing off Averis. That's what I'm doing to my neshama. And I'm going to try to constantly review these thoughts. He got down to business. It's true, the Bitachon Rav says it. That the Sumerak, Ratz and Raivan, you should know you're doing it to your neshama. You're doing it, it says from the Bitachon Rav, it's a true statement. He started working, and little did he realize what it entails. The thing that in his mind was supposed to take 1 hour, took 2 and 3 hours, moved bookcases that weren't touched for years, because when it was given to a cleaning lady, he found layers and layers that were there for years. He says, I had my 10-year-old boy's room that I knew I should leave that for last, because this kid and his personality is a whole story. To make a long story short, in the last few years, he costed me $30,000-$40,000 on therapy and all that. Very, very tough nature in learning, in behavior, really behavioral. And I knew that starting up with him, moving his bed, might be Third World War, and throwing away old toys. This is like Kodesh HaKadoshim situation. You're going into a real. So I left it for last. I knew what's coming, and I davened, and I got to that room. I spoke to my boy. He says, "You know what happened? I moved his bed. There's nothing there." I asked my wife, "Did you do it now? Did you do it last year?" She says, "I'm asking you, can I move his bed?" I can't move his bed. I discussed it and what to throw out. He says, in 45 minutes I was done, spotless, my kid with me, no issues. He says, and then I chapped. I was thinking to myself, this kid is the kid that's making me have kaporas avonis all year. He says, the avodas amidas and sometimes the bushes, the embarrassment that I have. He says, I was clean when I came to this room. I felt different rooms I had to scrub off myself. Around this kid, it's already scrubbed off. He said, the feeling that I had afterwards, there's no money that could pay for that. He said, I was so uplifted from the journey. Now this is a matana. It's an emes matana from the Rebbeinu Shalom. And when a person does physical work with the right attitude, they get a matana. It's not only that it's smart because you might as well because you're doing it anyways. That's step one, like we discussed. It was the previous year, I think. Step one is you're going to be doing it. You could do this way, that way, but it's much more than that.
The actions we said in the beginning of the shir.
Yeah. It's much more than that because the actions actually they open up. They make you a kli, a vessel that you should be ro'oi. You should be worthy that Hashem should come and rest upon you and give you that matana of bitachon. It's a fascinating matana. A person says, well, I don't know, I just feel. Many times people come to nicham avelim, lo yoleinu v'lo yoleichem. They come to situations that are not so easy, and they say, I really feel that you're calm. How are you doing this? Sometimes they say the answer in different ways with different words, but many times the side of the answer is Hashem gave me a matana. I bear feel, I hope, and I daven it should continue. I should continue having this feeling. But Baruch goes on Mekayim, Hashem is goes on situations, and then Hashem gives the koiches, gives the koiches. So we have to do physical zachen to be able to be with the right attitude. If you connect the pu'ula with the attitude, the person can be zoiche to groise oiris. There's a Yesoid from the Ostrovtze, Meir Eine Chachamim, big godel in Poland. He says, Vayidei Maharan. Aharon was quiet. When his two children were nifta. He was quiet. Why doesn't the Torah use the term shosak? Which is usually, that's the common word that's used for being quiet, for not verbalizing what Zog the Ostrovtze. Hashem created this doimim tzemeach chai medaber. Is translation for that? I don't think so.
Animate. Domim is the inanimate. Sameach is
Animate, inanimate.
Yeah, inanimate is the domim.
Inanimate is the doimim. Tzemeach, vegetable is a shem kloli.
Yeah.
The vegetable that you have, Balei Chaim is, how do you say Balei Chaim? Living creatures. And then you have the person, the talking. He says, when you start up with them, fascinating word, how do they megiv? How do they react? So you see, he goes from the top down. He says, the medaber, the one that talks, he screams back, takes revenge, gets you back. You started out with me, now you're going to get it. Go one step down, animals, they would scream, they would run away. They don't have that das to have an akama. Sometimes b'shas ma'aser but they would scream, they would run away. Vegetable can't scream, can't run away, but you see the chiyas, he calls it the face of would become constricted down, withered, fall down like. The doimim, the inanimate, would just stay there. Nothing, wouldn't budge. Nothing changed. When something happened to Aaron so devastating, Aaron HaKoyen acted like the doimim. Amazing word. It means not only didn't he say, but from the inside, he was fine. His hergation, his feelings, as Rabban Shalom knows what he's doing. Vayidoi maharan. Now, let's ask a question. The doimim is on the highest madrega? Shouldn't be working the other way? Why is it that the lowest, that has the least chiyas, is acting the most appropriate? That when you want to say Aaron's madrega, you're saying he was acting like the doimim. Now the answer is that the more das a person has, they have bachira. They could choose if they should use it right, and then it would give them fascinating havana and understanding that Rabban Shalom is Toiv Umetiv. They would be'emes understand and feel. But that das of a person, that das has the other side to it. That's the nisoyin. We use the das politically, to think, why did he do it? And I know, and then it's misused And then that's the nisayon of a person. That's when a person doesn't have the right emunah and bitachon. Doesn't have the right. So when a person understands the concept, so they understand, so what's my avoida? How do I work on myself to take the das instead of letting my mind wander, to eat myself up, and to go the direction of, hey, I know why he did it. He got me back there. Now it's my turn. A person uses their das to work on themselves. No. I'm supposed to keep quiet inside. I'm supposed to do vayidim and to work on saying Dan Imam and verbalizing and doing, like we said, a person could, with one vayidim, a person could really gain bitachon, because you're taking yourself, the actions that you have, and you're putting it in. When we learned in the beginning of the shir that the asiyah, the physical action, has the koyach to put it in. If you think about it, the daimim, the stone, has the least koyach to do. Going upwards, the tzemeach, a drop more, or balchai, could walk, could knock. The medaber has the most, because he uses his mind, and it goes into his, to constantly, to talk, to do, to walk, hishtadlus. That's the koyach of das that a person has in their mind. So here's the challenge, here's the nisoyan, is the bechira that the person has. That means becoming like a doimim is not asiyah. When you have the koyach of asiyah, you have that koyach, that's l'maisa, the mahalach, how to get your das back on track. The doimim can't do anything to change. You could do. That doing has two parts to it. Like the das could be used both ways, the physical actions could be used to take you away. Even if a person has a emunah bitachon, then they say, okay, I had a emunah bitachon. I'm curious to know if he already called him. I just want to know. So when you make that phone call, that asiyah dragged your irrigation down. If you didn't, then you would drag it up. So the handle on the person's das is the do's and the don'ts. If you act upon and that keeps your das in place, and then a person is higher than the daimim, because then they bemes chap. They feel it. They got to it. They have a connection with this yisoid. Reb Michael Yudah Lefkovich, he said, by us in yeshiva, at young age, we used to say and know this concept. If you have a concept in Torah that you don't understand, you know what you should do? We would look for a bocha that has torn shoes. We would buy him a pair of shoes and come back to this toisvis to see if now we understand the concept. Such a good word. That means it's not generating the or that's in my neshama, which knows what's there in Torah, but it's not happening. I don't know. It's just not going. So instead of saying, let me try this way, it's a mahalach, but I did it already. Make your nefesh give. Let me do something that's going to bring out the light which is inside me. So many times we find children, teenagers, and the same is later on in life. As long as they're not giving, they're closed. They're closed. They can't bring out the koyach that they have in their neshama. Once they give, it's like a fountain. If you take, there's more and more that comes. The yisoidas of bitachon many times is in the mind, but it's like stale. It's like it's there, but it's not matzliach to connect. Now, do. Sometimes I once saw this line: if you don't take that step when Hashem asks you to, He's just going to push you in. Sometimes you see people that they want to take the jump, they just slip in. Hashem is going to do it. That means Hashem is waiting for you to do that action. Sometimes it's with chesed and tzedakah. Sometimes there's different ideas which we mentioned earlier in this year. But it's very important, a person shachab, that when they don't do hishtadlus, when they feel it's not appropriate, it's an opportunity to totally change yourself. Cleaning for Pesach is one of those actions. Why? because it's something that brings people to pressure and to feel I'm not going to finish. How am I going to do this? Making Pesach is an act of bitachon. I don't have enough money. But jumping in, because that's what you got to do. Why are you jumping in? With the right attitude. Again, you got to do the asiyah with the right attitude. Because if I start, Hashem's going to help me. So a person shouldn't sit back and say, I have bitachon, it's going to happen. No, that's not bitachon. Twice it's not bitachon. First of all, because you have to do something. Second of all, because when you're not doing it, you're not generating that feeling. But many times people do it, but they do it with the wrong attitude. Constantly screaming because there's pressure. Again, there's a reason for that. Because when a person gets under pressure, they just lose it. But that pressure is because I got to finish. No. I started a day, we're moving. A child spilled, we have to redo, and that, it's frustrating. Again, we know it's frustrating. But then the Rebbe Shem is going to help me, and I'm going to redo it with a smile, with the right attitude. I see you, the right attitude just brings the person into a new world. And that prepares the nefesh for Pesach. It helps the person to be able to get there. Same as with Erev Pesach, the same as with the Seder night. How's it going to work in this child and that child, and sometimes son-in-laws, daughter-in-laws? It gets complicated sometimes. You leave go. Leaving go is an act. It means you're acting upon it. So doing the right physical action. Sometimes the person has to make a decision where to be by the Seder. And it's a lot of bitachon needed. It's the right thing. You do it with the right attitude. The Eibush of it help. Okay.